In week 4, we are going to wrap up our review of key concepts with a discussion about organizational theory. Here, I am going to present a basic primer on org theory. For many of you, this should serve as a helpful review. Other viewers may want to explore these theories in more detail as you examine your own organizations. First, it's helpful to review a couple of basic definitions. Reflecting on our session on organizational culture, what do you think about when you think of your organization? Probably, you think of the identity of your organization, which is an artifact of the organization's culture. Recall that one of the leader's most important functions is to shape the organization's culture and therefore its identity. However, fundamentally, an organization is the aggregate of the people within it, assembled for some specific purpose, which we refer to as the mission. It's the people, not the cultural identity ascribed to them, that defines the organization. Theory, in simple terms, is a statement that explains or predicts, with some reliability, in this case, human behavior within an organization. Theories are, by definition, not absolute, may be situational, and are constantly being tested. So organizational theory is the study of the behavior of humans within organizations. The idea of self-sufficiency steadily gave way to the rise of organizations over the course of the early 1800s through the mid-1900s as transportation systems improved and industrialization took hold. As firms began to compete, theorists began to look for the best way to organize and manage their people. Classical organizational theory assumes that there is a single best way to organize. Frederick Taylor attempted to apply the scientific method to manufacturing and conducted a series of time and motion studies to determine the single most efficient way to perform work. In doing so, he identified what he thought was the ideal ratio of workers to supervisors and established the importance of training workers to do their work. About the same time, Max Weber developed the concept of bureaucracy as the ideal manner in which to organize employees. His concepts of span of control, limited authority, division of labor, and emphasis on written procedures remain highly relevant today. Do any of these seem familiar to you? Along a similar vein, Elton Mayo's studies of the Hawthorne Electric Company attempted to determine the ideal lighting arrangement in order to maximize productivity. However, he observed that, mysteriously, the productivity in both his control group and the independent variable increased during his experiments, leading him to conclude that the workers in both groups increased their productivity by virtue of their awareness that researchers were observing them. Mayo's fascinating findings began giving rise to the human relations movement in organizational theory. Maslow began looking at what motivated workers and developed his now famous hierarchy of needs. This theory shows that humans all have similar physiological needs and attempt to fill them in ranked order. Everybody's seen this by now. A worker or a person in any circumstance first attempts to fulfill basic physiological needs, then begins to secure their own safety, and then socialization, and then ultimately turning their attention to fulfilling their personal social needs of esteem and ultimately self-actualization. McGregor identified two contrasting perceptions that managers have towards their employees, Theory X and Theory Y. Theory X states that employees are lazy, hate to work, and need to be closely supervised and punished as necessary. Theory Y states that employees basically like to work, they desire to be productive, and they merely need the caring guidance of supervisors to maximize production. From this, theorists began seeing that one approach was effective in some circumstances, while in other circumstances a different approach worked better. This gave rise to an entire body of contingency theories, including situational leadership, in which a leader utilizes varying approaches depending on the circumstances. Thereafter, Rensis Likert is considered to have started the participative management movement. He categorized organizations into 4 types according to the degree of participation their employees had in operations. Exploitive authoritative, in which all communication is top-down, control is centralized, and employees are closely supervised. Benevolent authoritative, where management permits employees to express their opinions and contribute to decision-making, but within the confines of management control. Thirdly, consultative, where employees freely contribute in the decision-making process, but final authority rests with leadership. And then fourthly, participative, where employee groups are fully empowered to make all of the decisions regarding the performance of their work. The remainder of the 20th century through today has seen an explosion in new theories and management methodologies. As a leader, it is up to you to realize that no single theory perfectly explains or perfectly predicts every situation.